good morning. I'm Brent Adams here with your Rural Strong Morning Ag Report for this Tuesday, February 6th, coming to you this morning from Fort Worth, Texas. Leading off the headlines this morning, Bill Northey, a longtime agriculture industry figure, former Iowa Agriculture Secretary, and USDA official in the Trump administration, has died. The 64-year-old was serving as the CEO of the Agribusiness Association of Iowa. Northey grew up on an Iowa family farm. He served as president of the National Corn Growers Association, 3 terms as the Iowa Agriculture Secretary, and as USDA Farm Production and Conservation Undersecretary during the Trump administration. Senator Chuck Grassley commented today the Iowa farm community lost a giant. Bill Northey was a dear friend and fierce advocate for the family farmer. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds added, Bill understood well our responsibility to be good stewards of the land and exemplified that calling throughout his career. Reynolds has ordered all flags in Iowa to be lowered to half-staff immediately and remain at half-staff until sunset on the day of Northey's funeral and interment. Well, the updated 2024 calendar year runoff forecast for the Missouri River Basin above Sioux City, Iowa, continues to be below average. January runoff in the Missouri River Basin above Sioux City was 0.4 million acre-feet, 56% above average. Runoff was well below average due to much below normal temperatures over the whole Missouri River Basin and below normal precipitation over much of the upper basin. John Remus of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers says the runoff into the reservoir system was well below average for January. The 2024 calendar year runoff forecast above Sioux City is 18.8 million acre-feet, 73% above average. To conserve water in the system, releases from Gavins Point Dam are scheduled to be 13,000 cubic feet per second this winter, while serving the needs of municipal, industrial, and power plant water intakes along the lower river. Well, U.S. agricultural negotiator Doug McCallop recently highlighted U.S. efforts to expand foreign markets for American beef facing unscientific trade barriers. McCallop told the National Cattlemen's Beef Association at the group's CattleCon 24 event, knocking down non-tariff trade barriers takes face-to-face talks with some of the U.S.'s biggest trading partners.
For example, Japan has greatly expanded their access for our products, and that's a $2.3 billion market for U.S. beef.
McCallop says the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement is another area where non-scientific trade barriers kept or continue to keep out U.S. product.
There are, just over the course of the last year, about $6 billion that we were able to save by getting countries to remove those regulatory hurdles, and that makes a big difference for beef exporters and helps keep the trade moving.
But the U.S. was forced to seek a second trade dispute settlement panel over Canada's dairy import quotas after accusing Ottawa of failing to comply with an initial ruling in the U.S.'s favor. McCallop, meantime, says other markets are prime targets for expansion.
Southeast Asia is certainly a major player, the growing population, the growing middle class. That's a place where we need to diversify and spend a lot of time developing those markets.
While McCallop, recently in Africa, says there are more than 30 countries that are interested in buying U.S. agricultural products. McCallop this week also plans to address State Department of Agriculture leaders at their association's annual winter policy conference. Well, how much beef will the U.S. produce this year, and what price are producers likely to get for their steers on average? The USDA is about to issue an answer to those questions. More with the details is USDA Radio's Gary Crawford.
Last week's USDA cattle inventory report gave producers, traders, and analysts a very comprehensive picture of the beef cattle situation in terms of inventory and the size of the herd going forward. Based on that, this coming Thursday, USDA Outlook Board analysts will be making their monthly forecasts for 2024 beef production and cattle prices. However, Outlook Board Chairman Mark Jekanowski told us,
for what it's worth, most of the data within that cattle report seemed to fall pretty close to within industry expectations. So it was kind of viewed as a neutral report from the standpoint of the livestock market overall.
But he says that does not rule out possible changes this month to USDA's previous projections for beef production and cattle prices. We'll find out when the new forecasts come out this Thursday, noon Eastern Time. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Well, a recent USDA study looks at potential stocking impacts and financial climate risks within its livestock forage disaster program. Here with those details is USDA Radio's Rod Bain.
Drought conditions can lead cattle producers to make regarding the stocking numbers or liquidation of their herds. Yet how does USDA's Livestock Forage Disaster Program mitigate those decisions? That was the subject of an Economic Research Service study. ERS's Aaron Rosenzik says among the findings,
counties that were eligible for LFP payments behaved similarly in terms of their livestock herd retention and stocking decisions as those that were less affected by drought and eligible for payments. To us, that's saying that the program is encouraging some herd retention when producers are faced by drought.
Also, the study indicates federal expenses associated with LFP and mitigating greenhouse gases are expected to increase by the end of the 21st century, and how drought is defined over time could alter the current financial climate risk model of LFP. I'm Ron Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
And finally, this morning, a partnership is offering an online platform to point rural communities and citizens towards resources to address mental health and farm stress issues. Here one final time is Rod Bain.
Various ag and rural-oriented organizations, private businesses, and nonprofit groups continue to expand available rural mental health resources to communities and individuals. For instance, the recent announcement of the Farm Family Wellness Alliance and
free access to counseling for farmers and ranchers and those in rural America.
Terry Moore represents the American Farm Bureau Federation, one of several partners within the alliance. Their new platform, found at www.farmfoundation.org/resources, provides anonymous online mental health and well-being services, and as important, points to local resources in rural communities. She acknowledges
One of the challenges in the mental health arena is that often we have national hotlines, but those counselors may not understand rural America. Life is very different in rural America, and so the psychology of helping someone in crisis in rural America is different, and that too is part of what we have been working to achieve.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Well, you can keep up with the latest from the world of agriculture by subscribing to the Tractors and Troubadours podcast from Rural Strong Media. Each week, I bring you agriculture industry newsmakers, hot button industry issues, educational features, and the best in traditional country music. The Tractors and Troubadours podcast can be found at ruralstrongmedia.com or wherever you get your podcasts. We also invite you to join us daily on Rural Strong Radio, our 24/7 streaming radio station found at ruralstrongmedia.com or the Live 365 streaming radio app for your mobile device. Each day, we bring you our award-winning agriculture programming, as well as the best in traditional country music, mixed in with a little bluegrass, western swing, southern rock, and inspirational music. Again, the place to find Rural Strong Radio is ruralstrongmedia.com or the Live 365 streaming radio app. We're portable, so take us with you everywhere you go. Let's get through the workday together. Well, I'll be back again tomorrow with another Rural Strong Morning Ag Report here on Steve Shetler Media. Make it a great day, everybody.